Iconic, The Economy of Certainty, Introduction to the Typology of Islamic Legal Theory by Aron Zysow, Harvard University, 1984, Cambridge, Massachusetts. Chapter 1. This argument clearly originated in Mu'tazili circles, and was meant to answer those Mu'tazila who, Samarkandi himself informs us, held that the unit report was a norm only in matters of reason, not in the law. From other sources, we know that among these Mu'tazila were people like Abu Bakr al-Asam, who died in 200-815, and his pupil Ismail ibn Ibrahim, known as Ibn Ulayya, who died in 218, which is 833. Although our knowledge of their doctrine is in the highest degree fragmentary, these Mu'tazila seem to have had an enormous impact on later usul thought, both among Mu'tazila who opposed them and among a group of Zahiris who carried on their teachings. In turn, the lines of thought stimulated by this challenge penetrated into other circles, Ash'arite and Orthodox Hanafite. Al-Asam is reported to have said that if there was a collection of 100 traditions, all authentic except for one, and that one was not specifically known, it would be necessary to refrain from acting upon any of them. This is precisely the kind of folly against which Samarkandi's argument was directed. A number of arguments appearing in the usul text can be traced with confidence to this group of Mu'tazila. Perhaps the most revealing is that which distinguishes between the reliance placed on presumption in ordinary business matters on the one hand, and in the acceptance of the unit tradition on the other. The Hanafis, as we have seen, regarded the trust placed in presumption in all these instances as analogous. The opposing argument is characteristically Mu'tazilite in tone. God is characterized by perfect ability to make known his will in such a way that no doubt remains. This is clearly not the case with Khabar Wahid. Humans, on the other hand, are incapable of protecting their rights and doing their business in such a way as to do without the unit report. Messengers must be sent, agents must be employed, and thus reliance on the individual reporter is inevitable. Other arguments pointed to the undesirable consequences of the position which accepted the Khabar al-Wahid as norm. The ordinary man of probity was placed on a higher plane than the Prophet, for he was taking at his word, whereas the Prophet had to perform miracles to win assent. If the unit traditions were accepted as a basis for religious action, what grounds were there for maintaining the uncontested Mu'tazila principle that they were not sufficient as a basis for religious belief in matters such as the nature of God and his attributes? Questions such as these force the mainstream Mu'tazila to examine the rational basis for the acceptance of the unit tradition more closely than others. We have already seen the general trend of their answers as it appears in Samarkandi's Mizan. Just as we will rely on the unit report in ordinary matters which affect our welfare, so also we rely on it in our matters of religion, where so much more is at stake. This reply was meant to show that the principle underlying secular and religious action was the same, that of well-being, maslahah, and that the distinction introduced by the opponent was unfounded. But the Mu'tazila defenders of the unit tradition did not stop here. They introduced a device to maintain their position, which we may term the displacement of certainty. This device marks a significant concession to the demand for certainty put forth by the opposition. Its attractiveness was such that it was used by a number of the Ash'aris, notably Ghazali, and is not without an echo in some later Hanafi texts, undoubtedly under Ash'ari influence. But for Samarkandi, the ploy was unacceptable. We shall not undertake to extend an extended treatment on this issue here, but shall, like Samarkandi, refer the reader to the question of the infallibility of the mujtahid, an older and more famous version of the problem. Two elements, say Mu'tazilites, must be present for us to act on the unit tradition. First, the unit tradition itself, and secondly, the master rule that informs us of the obligation to conform to the norm contained in the tradition. The unit consisting of the master rule along with the relevant tradition now bears the load of certainty. This master rule does not differ in any significant respect from an ordinary command of God. There is no difference between God saying to us, when the veracity of the report seems probable to you, then act according to his report, and his saying, do so and so. All these cases we know the obligation of the act in question. Stay tuned for many more parts.